What's up, and welcome back to another week of the Maryland Made podcast. I'm Nate McGill, and I'm your host for this episode. If you don't know, the Maryland Made podcast provides timely, relevant, and practical information to empower student athletes to explore their potentials and pursue their passions. We have a few special guests with us today. We have Gabe Pickett from the UMD Career Centers and current track athlete Brandon Turpin. So I'll let them introduce themselves in a little bit, but thank you all for taking time this morning. I know it's early, but I appreciate you all for coming in and being featured today. So I'll
No
let you guys
problem.
introduce yourself. Go ahead.
Uh, I guess I'll start. Brandon Turpin. My friends call me Turp. I'm a junior at UMD. I'm on the track team, specializing in hurdles, and I'm currently a graphic design major. Right now, I'm working with the University of Maryland football department, working on like recruiting graphics, and also things for like social media engagement. So that's what's keeping me busy right now.
I'll go next. Good morning. Glad to be here. My name is Gabe Pickett. I am the career outreach specialist here at the University of Maryland. I work in the Career Center. I have a little bit of a hybrid role, so I spend my time with the Career Center and also with the College Behavioral Social Sciences, better known as CSAW. Back in my day, I was also a track athlete,
Yes,
uh,
sir.
primarily with the jump, so triple jump, long jump. Did a little bit of the sprints as well, even though that wasn't my sweet spot. But we dabble in a little bit of everything back
Okay.
then.
Definitely. Well, I want to just bring you guys together because, again, Gabe, you work with helping students get careers, and then Terp, I think that you are have a fantastic start with just getting internships, getting real career experience. So, just wanted to highlight the importance of internships and really talk about the career journey. So, Gabe, I want you to take it back a little bit. Like I said, you ran track at Temple. Tell us
Mhm.
a little bit about your career journey thus far and kind of like how you got to your position at UMD.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's looking back, it doesn't make sense how I kind of got here. It took a kind of a whirlwind of an approach.
Hmm.
But something I tell my students is it doesn't always have to be a linear road. So, I was a track athlete back at Turpin University. Um, that was my focus, right? That's why I thought, that's what you have practice early, you have practice late, you have weights, you have all this stuff that takes up so much of your time. So that was I was a student. I mean, I was an athlete first and a student second, right? And that's not the that's not the way to do it. Um, but I was a captain of the team by the time I was a junior, right? Um, and we had actually gotten cut. Our team got cut for finance reasons and like Title IX and things of that nature. So at the time, I was a kinesiology major, right? Thinking I was going to do physical therapy and all that other stuff. So I'm just like, I'll just stick it out, and we'll go into physical therapy, and that'll be it. Um, to graduate with a degree in kinesiology, you have to do some volunteer hours with a physical therapist, right?
Hmm.
So I did that, realized that that's not what I wanted to do, like at all. So sometimes I was so set on, I realized that it wasn't fulfilling work, it wasn't exciting work, it wasn't something that really challenged me in the way that I like to be challenged. The schoolwork was challenging, so I thought it would have been, but it wasn't challenging in the way that I thought it would be. So I was like, oh man, I'm junior going to my senior year now. So I've done it over the summer. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do, but let me just get my degree, and I'll have a degree, and the promise was you get a degree and then you should be good right in life. So
Right.
I finished my degree, and I just started working some odd jobs. I ended up working for Enterprise for a little bit, doing some sales and some management stuff there, and they have a really nice program there as far as professional development, which is really great there. But again, figured out that that's not something I saw myself doing for the rest of my life. Um, so I started to look back in my experience that I had, up to that point. And one thing that I kept from going back to is when I was captain of the team, and when we did get cut, a lot of my teammates came to me, right? They looked to me as far as for guidance, hey, I came here to run track and I can't run track anymore. What do I do? Where do I go? Like what does this mean for me? And just remembering some of those conversations I had with my teammates, my friends, as far as like, hey, like here are your options. Here's the things we can do. Like here's the things, the resources that you have available for yourself to like figure out, your next steps. And, really gotta get take a introspective look as far as, what do you want to do? What do you want out of life? And just helping them with their career transition. So, I thought about that and I was like, hey, I really, enjoyed doing that. It was fulfilling work. And, I know that it had an impact. So it's like, hey, I want to help athletes with their career transitions. That's what I want to do. So I went back to school. So I went back to Temple actually to get my master's in sports management.
Okay.
In that time, I got an internship with the NFL Players Association. Working with them, they have a division called the Trust. The Trust works directly with retired NFL players and figure out their career transitions, what they want to do, and kind of associate it. So it's like, hey, one day I make sure I did my internship was, network with everyone that I could. So I spent, time each week, going around the department, just like asking people questions. And so when I got to the trust, I was like, hey, like, how do I get to where you're at? Like, how do I get to do this work? One thing they told me is like, you need some experience, helping people with their career transition. You can go a couple of different routes. You can go the social work route, or you can, or work within career. I chose the career route. So when I graduated my grad school, I went to work at Washington and Lee University. I worked in their career office, working with diverse populations first. Because not only do I love working with athletes, I love working with diverse populations, things like that primarily.
Right.
So I got to work with them was there for a little bit, and then I also got to work with the grander population. So I was working with diverse populations, I was working with student athletes, I was also working with the general population as well. And I found the fulfillment just in all aspects of the work there. So that's what led me to this kind of work, and then from there I got an opportunity to come over here to Maryland, work with a larger university. Maryland's also a lot closer to my family, so it just kind of worked out there. So I'm here now, and really enjoying the work I do, connecting students with opportunities, resources to help them with their career transition.
Definitely. Shout out to UCC. I think they do some great work. So just got a salute to y'all. Turp, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about your recruiting process. Tell us about how you got involved in track and kind of what led you to be a collegiate athlete today.
Okay. Let's see. So I actually played soccer like all my childhood.
Okay.
Ever since as long as I can remember being in sports, like that's what I played. So that was probably from like 3 years old, 4 years old to like freshman year of high school. So I actually wanted to be on the soccer team in my high school. I went to DeMatha, like it's in the area. But um, what happened? I ended up going on vacation like the same week of tryouts, and I had no idea that the tryouts were that week. So ended up missing it like completely. So I get back and I'm like, all right, well, we need to do something because I'm just not gonna be sitting around here like day after day, you know. Give me 1 second, my bad. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm not gonna be sitting here day after day. Like I feel like I gotta stay active in some way, shape, or form. So I decided to just join the track team, mainly because like most of the friends that I had at school were on the team. That's like the main reason why. But after a year, I started like to kind of love the sport, just become more passionate about it. And then that was during my sophomore year, and then it came to a point where I felt like I really wanted to take it seriously, like take it to the next level. So I started like to lock in a bit more, and I just thought that I started hurdles at that same time. So just going through that process of just going day in, day out, going into practice, going to meets, and just making sure I'm on top of myself really got me to where I am today. So as in terms of getting to UMD now, this is during my senior year, and of course this is 2020, and as we all know, that's like when COVID really hit. So I was going through my options. I had was being recruited by multiple schools around the country, but at that time, being at home for so long, I just didn't feel comfortable not being at home. I felt like it was pretty easy just to be around my family at the time being, and it seemed like the safest option at the time being. So I decided to make my way to UMD.
I like it, and it's kind of in the area, so I can definitely understand that. Um, is there anything else that kind of sold you on the university, like coaching staff, campus, programs that you thought about, like when you were making that decision to come to UMD versus other universities?
Looking at UMD, as far as I know, since growing up, it's one of the top public institutions in the nation. My mom was alumni here, so she's been telling me about UMD for as long as I can remember when it comes to college. So that's always one thing that's been in my head. But when it came to like looking at the team, like one of my visit earlier in my senior year, you could tell from like the team culture that it was just like a legit family, especially with like the men on the team. I felt like I would just easily like be able to just to slide into that environment. So that was really a selling point for me. And oh yeah, that's really it. That's really it.
Got you. Okay, appreciate that. So Gabe, back on you. So you talked to us a little bit about your journey, Temple, internship, NFLPA. We said Washington Elite, right? So like
Yeah.
on that journey, is there anything you really became passionate about? Like, did you discover anything about yourself and wanting to pursue this career even further, like throughout that process?
Absolutely. And I like the way you put it because yeah, as kind of the discovery that I wanted to do this, and then as I'm doing it and just finding out the different needs and the different services that students need, or like it just kind of had me further deeply and like entrenched in the love for stuff that I kind of do. So actually, when I was working at Washington and Lee, so Washington and Lee is a small liberal arts college in the western part of Virginia. You might have never heard of it, but there's probably about 2,000 students in the whole college. Right, it's
Mhm.
very small, very small. So as you might suspect, the black population there is not very robust. When I was interviewing there, they had me interview with some of the students, and some of the I remember talking to one of the black students who was from Kansas, and he told me that there's not much for black people out there. He loves the school, loves what he does, stuff like that. But he ran track as well. But he can't even get a haircut, right? He only gets a haircut when he goes back home. And since he's a track athlete, he only goes home, once or twice a year because he lives in Kansas. Like you can't just be, darting back and forth, back and forth home. So I remember that's something that stuck with me. And I lived about 45, I had about a 45-minute commute to campus there. And there was a barber in my town. So it's like, hey, like, how would you feel about like coming down to campus once a month, doing haircuts for some of the black kids on campus and stuff like that. So we made it a thing. It was
Mm.
cuts and conversations. We had one of the fraternity houses that we kind of stayed at when black kids would kind of come, black men would come and they would hang out there. We would play video games. I taught some students how to play spades. Um, just had conversations about stuff that was going on, what was happening while they're waiting to get their haircut. And it was good because it would happen about once a month, so they could go into the weekend or go into the week, especially if there's something coming up, with a good haircut. They didn't have to look, mainly for the entire semester, right? That how you come in the semester looking fresh, coming from home for like that first couple of weeks. Imagine having that couple of weeks, but then the rest of the semester you just you have a hat on for the rest of your time, right? So it's good to be able to do that, and then I'm able to talk a little bit about what work that we did at the career center down there, stuff like that. They are able to identify, hey, there's a black person in the career center, see that kind of representation, someone actually cares about us, stuff like that. So that was really fulfilling, just to see that I was like, hey, like there's a need here, be able to fulfill the need, be able to connect with students on another level, and just be able to meet them where they're at. A lot of our work is connecting with students and trying to meet them where they're at, and provide services as relevant to their journey and their plight. So that was a really great example of the time that I was able to kind of really do that. And it was like, wow, like this is something that's important. It's something small gesture, but it's something that's important and had a profound impact.
Definitely. So, that's definitely different. I mean, I can understand being in a small university and not really having an outlet to even get a haircut. I'm kind of interested to see like what other issues or I won't say issues, but just hurdles they had to overcome. I mean, whether it like be a social aspect or food aspect. I mean, the list can go on.
Yeah,
So talk to me a little bit more why you chose this demographic, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Like I'm a former student athlete myself, but
mm-hmm.
I think it's very cool to work with the 18 to 22-year-old. I mean, sometimes a little older than that, demographic, just because they are more, I think, determined to, go to the next phase in life. I think sometimes the this demographic might not know what they want to do, but like this is definitely different than working in like an elementary setting. So did that go into like did you think about that when trying to pursue a job in like higher education, like that demographic as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was at a time I was trying to figure out, do I want to work with professionals? Do I want to work with those who are kind of in transition? I think that, and like looking back on my own experience, I think that was the biggest thing. Looking back on my own experience when I was 18 to 22 to 23 or whatever, you're inundated with so much. and it's a very it's a very interesting time where you can kind of go any which way. It's
Yeah.
all about what you're exposed to, what kind of resources that you have available to you, and what's being offered, right? So, I thought that that was like we read with like grad students, we work with professionals, they're, a lot of times they have, their mindset where they want to go and they'll seek out the information. Whereas, 18 to 22-year-olds, can kind of go any which way. And I remember myself as a student athlete, my focus, again, like I said earlier, my focus was on sports. So it's like, I'll figure out the career stuff later. But if I had had someone who was able to meet me where I was at and like really kind of sit me down, like, hey, this is important that we start thinking of now. Yes, absolutely, you're an athlete. It's important, it's something that you love. Not saying that you can't focus on that, but
Mhm.
just devote some time here as well because it's going to pay out dividends down the road. I didn't necessarily have that. Um, so being able to do for others that I didn't necessarily have myself is something that's important for me. And it's good to see that like the work that we do, the resources that we're able to provide, be able to meet student athletes especially, or just students in general, and see how like, wow, I didn't know this going into the session, or I didn't know this going to this advising appointment, or I didn't know this going to this event, but now I know like I have a clear path forward and all that stuff, and kind of seeing that light bulb moment is really great.
Yeah, I agree. So, Turp, I don't want to put you on the spot, but how old are you? Because I know you in that time, you in that group, right? You 21, 21?
Yeah, 21.
Hey.
21.
I got you. So now you're a part of this demographic that we're talking about, and you're a student athlete. So you're balancing the athletic portion, the social life, and the athletic aspect of your life. So tell us a little bit about like how you came to figure out the career journey that you want to start going on. Like was there any influences that kind of came about and making you kind of decide what you want to do as far as like the creative side of things?
So, um, in high school, I kind of got into graphic design, but I never took it to like a serious point. I kind of just felt like it was like a little hobby that I could do on the side. So part of me was just like, all right, we'll do that on the side when we get to college. I decided to major in computer science.
Okay.
So that was during my freshman year. So I started out in computer science, and freshman year went okay. Like it was like the spring semester of my freshman year. It went okay. It was the first class that you needed for that major. So I did okay in that class, and I moved into the sophomore year, fall semester now. And once I got to this class, like everything took a turn. I had no idea that it was gonna be like that much work required to put in. And it got to a point where I had to ask myself, is this making me happy? Like, is
Hmm.
this actually what I want to do? And I started like comparing myself to some of my teammates. I had another teammate who was also in computer science, and he secured a internship with Microsoft like that that same year. So I'm telling myself, oh, he did it. I could do it. That's all these thoughts are going through my head. But it really came down to like, really, what makes you happy? Like, what do you want? Like, what do you like to do that will put you in the best spot mentally? And I feel like that should be emphasized over everything else in terms of whatever you do. So I decided to go back in and try to see if I could major in graphic design here at UMD. And since making that career choice, I feel like I'm putting myself in like the best position. Mentally, I haven't been in a better spot in these like past couple months within being in this major. So um yeah, that's kind of where I got to this point. And then moving into like how I'm with like internships that I've had so far. So once I decided to move into like graphic design, I was able to secure two internships with the University of Maryland. One working as a creative content designer with the IT department. So working on digital signage and things of that sort. And then also I started a position as a graphic design intern with the football team, like I discussed earlier. So yeah, those two positions have been pretty like beneficial as of right now. I'm just working towards, getting to that next level.
And Gabe, the graphics are crazy. Trying to
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you gotta say
top
too
tier
much. You gotta
graphics.
say too much.
So okay. So as you're deciding you want to change majors, you figure out your passion. I think something you hit on was really good. Is like you got to figure out what's going to make you happy if that's going to be the career that you're going to pursue. So like looking forward, like is there anything that like you're excited about when you're going throughout this journey? Because I'll say, having some years of experience in different industries, like it's definitely a journey. Like it's not going to just happen overnight wherever you want to be. But what excites you about going on this journey or potentially going down this journey, in the future?
I'd have to say like having the opportunity to really be myself and let my creative mind just like spread. I felt like being in that computer science environment, I kind of like constricted myself a little bit just to like what was expected of me. And I feel like being in this role, I have the opportunity to really just um, let people see what I see in myself through my work. That's what I feel like just really keeping me going. Like every interview that I do have coming up, I kind of look at it as something um that I want to do rather than something that I have to do, like all these job positions. So that's what I feel like it is.
And then Gabe, I'm gonna ask you kind of a similar question. Like since you've been on the journey, like what is something that has not been as exciting for you, like as you are going through and you're learning and you're getting all these experiences? What is not exciting?
Uh, it's actually really it's a good question. So as an athlete, like you think I'm gonna have these like skills forever. I'm gonna make sure I go into something that's not gonna be boring or monotonous. Like the one thing I didn't realize in going into this work is that there's a lot of administrative tasks, a lot of things behind the scenes that you don't know, a lot of time behind the desk, stuff like that. So there's a lot of monotony that kind of goes into the final product.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's sometimes just like not the thing that you look forward to.
Right.
But it's a part of falling in love with the process of, hey, that at the end of the day, this is going to be the end result. At the end of the day, like this is going to be, the resource that, the demographic that this resource is going to serve. So, you're able to do it. But, sometimes the process you don't look forward to, inputting all that data or, recording all those notes or, all that, or, the many, many phone calls that go into, getting, recruiting in a couple of employers and stuff like that, the no's and stuff like that, they have to kind of go through. There's a lot that happens behind the scenes that people don't know about. But it's all worth it at the end because again that light bulb moment, even if for one or two students that it makes it click, that's those are young minds that you're helping mold. Those are career paths, life changing stuff that can be happening because of the work that we do. So it's not always glamorous, but
Right.
it's definitely worthwhile. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So you know what I
But
mean.
it's
So
worth it. It's worth it.
yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So like now we're gonna move to another section of questions, and I just want you all to just reflect on your internship experiences and gave your career experiences as well. So like run down the details of your internship. Like I think Brandon, if you're thinking about like the stuff you did over this summer and like how has that experience helped you? I mean, for you, I guess doing different interviews, like some things that you can talk about on your interviews. And for Gabe, how has that internship for you, whether it be the NFLPA on your day-to-day basis, how has those transferable skills like applied in your career journey?
So I'll start. So, looking at like the interview process and just like in terms of getting those jobs, one thing I've noticed, especially like comparing this to being a student athlete, is that most of these interviewers give you the opportunity to actually like be yourself, and they just want to know more about you. And I feel like sometimes being a student athlete, you're expecting, like keep yourself separate, like your personal life, keep all that separate from your sport. And you just gotta be like a straight up competitor in every way aspect and form instead of like, there's different things. At the end of the day, you're still a person, you're a student athlete. So I feel like being a student athlete, it's kind of hard to keep those two things separate. But in terms of these like interviews that I've been doing lately, I've really noticed that like they really want to know more about you and like what you're really about, like your values and your goals. So um that's like a huge like thing I've noticed in terms of making that adjustment of being just like a student athlete to not being an intern. At some point you're gonna realize that like not everything is about you because being an athlete you're granted like a lot of opportunities. Things are kind of I mean you put in work obviously in your sport, but at the same time there's things that you like in terms of treatment, food that you get like all that you like your scholarship that you have as well, like those are all things just given to you just based on the fact of how you perform. But when you
Right.
get to work, you really have to put in like you got to show something in order to get something back. You have to, you know, make some headway in order to have your voice being heard, like in the office and things like that. So make sure that you like hold some weight in your work environment. So that's a big adjustment that I had to, realize going into that intern role.
Yeah, and I would say the interesting part of working in careers is because like a lot of things that happen to you in your career is like directly applicable to the work that you actually do too. So it's like
Mhm.
it kind of has several sports there. I would say that like thinking back, especially on my time with the NFLPA, I was able to take a lot from it. It's a really really great organization. So I was able to figure out, okay, what are some things that I'm now looking for in an organization that I go to work for, right? Is there representation, is diversity within the organization, and if not, what's the culture like there? Like, are they
Mhm.
open and welcoming, or are they cold? Like, I don't obviously don't want to work in a cold environment that isn't welcoming or anything like that. So when I went down to Washington Lee, it's in the deep south, for all intents and purposes. But the people that I actually work with in my department, and they were really welcoming, they were really understanding and things like that. So again, being able to identify the type of culture that I want to work with. I mentioned earlier that during that time I made sure that I networked kind of throughout the department, throughout the organization really. And just kind of thinking like, hey, this is a once in a lifetime really opportunity.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd love to come back here, but there's no telling that I actually will. So like, let me you know pick the minds of some of the people that work here in this industry, and let me make sure I have a walk away from this experience with a lot of great information, connections, things like that. So figuring out the importance of networking, right? So now as as a part time, I do some student advising as well. So I'm able to talk about from experience the importance of networking, the takeaways that you can really get, things like that, and different networking strategies that you can really employ.
Yeah.
Um, and then just kind of learning about different career paths and stuff like that too, and realizing that like it's not always going to be linear. Like Turpin has a really great story as far as how he kind of came about and realizing what he wants to do, but sometimes that realization comes later down the road for some people. Like I
Yeah.
know it did for me, and some people know from high school, some people know from middle school, like hey, this is what I want to do, boom, and they can kind of go from there. But it's not the same for everyone, but that's also okay, right? You know, we're way past the days where you figure out what you want to do and that's the only thing you're going to do for the next 40, 50 years until you retire. Sometimes, hey, I want to do this, and then 10 years down the road it's like, hey, I want to try something else. I want to express this skill set that I have or anything like that. So just knowing that there's many different pathways to careers, and that any pathway that you choose is okay as long as you feel especially if you something that you want to do.
Gotcha. So, um, what's the next question I want to? I'm trying to think about like we talked about some adjustments you guys have to make, when you guys make that transition. So like thinking about some challenges that you guys had to face and kind of overcome in your experience. Like were there any learning curves when you came into either the internship role or the your career role? Like I'm thinking about you talked about adjusting and making sure you work so you have some headspace. You're showing the employer that you're capable of doing X, Y, and Z. But what were some other learning curves that you guys might have faced when you were in these roles and you guys overcame in that process?
Kind of picking back on what I said earlier about making sure that my employer knows that I'm capable of being in that position and actually doing well at my job is that like it was a bit of a struggle kind of to be vulnerable and say, I honestly am not sure how I need to do this, how to go about completing this task. It's something that I've like dealt with like throughout my life, especially in track, being like a track athlete. It's never a good thing to tell your coach like, hey, I don't think I can't do this right now. You don't want to be that guy. Like it's kind of like a struggle right there. So kind of taking all those experiences and not going into the work world and then having to kind of overcome that and being able to just say, yeah, I'm not too sure how to go about doing this. It
Mhm.
kind of push you like down the pedestal. And you're always trying to work your way up. So that's something that I had to get used to. And in the end, I feel like it's pretty important to do so because like I feel like everybody has these opportunities, like these situations where they honestly don't know what to do. And some people, just mess around, just find out, we'll figure out later on. But I feel like, tackling those problems like head on early puts you in a better spot in the long run. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think that's great, and that's something I probably would piggyback off of. Being an athlete for my entire life, You know, a lot of it was like, hey, you get taught this thing once, and then you're expected to do it over and over again. You're supposed to, be good at it, perfect that skill, perfect that aspect of things. So then, turn around and then going into the workforce, you know, you kind of hesitate to go and ask for help, right?
All right.
One thing that I loved about track was that, like, I was able to own my accomplishments, own, my, as much of it as it's a team sport, right? You guys win as a team. You're responsible for your event and how you perform and things like that. Um, but it also comes with the criticism, right? So, all eyes are on you, right? So there's a little bit of pressure there. I was kind of taking that into the workplace. I was like, oh man, like, if this doesn't come out great, like, my boss is gonna come down on me really hard, things like that. But not realizing, again, that's why it's important to know what kind of culture you're getting yourself into, what kind of management style that your peers have. Like, are they um, open to coachability, right? Are they someone that you can actually kind of go to and kind of help you through the process and things like that? Because that kind of stuff is important, especially for student athletes who's kind of making that transition. Like, I didn't have, real internships undergrad, right? I worked, odd jobs, server, I worked, some things on campus. I didn't really have like any real type of experience in the field that I want to do. So everything that I was learning as far as like professionalism on the job, like I was learning on the go. I knew about careers because of, my own career journey, but as far as the differences in like different resources and stuff like that, like I learned all that stuff like on the fly. So like, when I started doing advising, like, I had to ask my boss like every day, like, hey, am I saying the right things? Like, am I giving them, am I pointing them in the right direction? Like, because again, like as small as universities, you're not always guaranteed for those students to come back with questions because for them it's an intimidating experience. It can be an intimidating experience as well. So I don't want to impart them with the wrong information. So
Right.
the first little bit when I was advising people and stuff like that, I was all right. Let me my whole thing was always if I don't know the answer now, I will definitely make sure I'll follow up with you. So that first like couple months, I was following up with everyone. I didn't have the answers right there, but I was following up and finding the information. So being able to learn on the fly was something that I had to get used to doing because didn't have the biggest uh, um, biggest amount of experience kind of going in, and just being able to adjust to the professional workplace as far as like it's okay to ask for help, it's okay to not know, it's okay to allow yourself to be coachable, and it's okay to it's okay to fail,
Yeah.
but fail forward, right? We know when an athlete, you fail, it's like the end. It feels like the end of the world, right?
Yeah.
I was a jumper. If I scratched all three of
Wow.
my jumps,
Yeah, yeah.
my head's down the rest of that bus ride. I don't, coach walking down the aisle. I don't. Nah, I'm not here. Gabe didn't get on the bus. But it's okay to it's okay to fail, but you want to fail forward. You want to learn from your experiences and just be able to improve moving forward. Um, so that was a challenge, but something that I was also able to take from my time as an athlete.
Man, you said a few different things that I kind of wanted to just run back real quick with because you talked about you not having that experience in undergraduate years. So like that's why I feel like the having an internship in your undergraduate years is so important because you get to learn. I tell student athletes this all the time. If you have an experience and you don't like it, then you don't want to do that anymore. You don't have to figure that out. Once you graduate and once you have bills and things of this nature, you can get that experience out the way. So that's one thing. And another one talked about like having a culture or like a supervisor who supports you in that situation. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know I've had situations where I feel like I need to ask questions. And I think that's okay. And I think that I would rather ask a question than not ask a question than like mess up and it can't be reversed. Like I think that's important to know too. So definitely ask questions if you feel like you have the opportunity to do so and you're in a culture to do so. Um, so Turp, I want to talk about this New York trip. I know you did that last summer, got a
Yeah.
good opportunity to get some exposure. So tell us a little bit about how that opportunity kind of helped you in your career journey and maybe just the exposure piece of it, but talk to us a little bit about that.
All right, so this is at the end of my sophomore year, and I just started being in the graphic design major at this time being. So through the Maryland Made program, y'all should definitely check it out. One of the best things ever. They decided to put together like a career learning experience for student athletes, able to like to sign up and take a trip to New York for about I think 3 days. And at this during the trip, we were able to like to visit some big time companies in the New York area. I had the opportunity to go to Nike, visit with the Brooklyn Nets headquarters, Morgan Stanley. It was a very great experience. Looking back on it right now, some things I like the highlights of this trip is just like in most of these jobs, even like for example, visiting Morgan Stanley, I looked at it as like, okay, why am I going to Morgan Stanley? Like I'm a designer, I'm a graphic designer, so what can I offer to this company? But being in that environment, you start to realize that like if you get your foot in the door, the possibilities are endless. And say like, for example, you don't have things on your resume or not even like career interests at the time being that actually relate to like Morgan Stanley. I'm being honest, I can't remember exactly what the company. I think it's like financial advising and stuff like that. But I felt like me being in that environment, I didn't want to be there like taking that trip to the company because I just felt like I could gain nothing from that experience, and they wouldn't get anything from me. But being in that room, being in like the meeting room, talking about a lot of people, even like the people, board members there, they didn't start off as what they thought they were going to be.
Right.
So I felt like just getting that understanding of just knowing that like, hey, you're here right now, but 5 years from now, you could be in a totally different mind space where you feel like you may want to go down a different career avenue. I feel like that's one of the biggest things I got from that trip is just knowing that there's always room to grow. And also at the trip, I had the opportunity, network and start building connections with some very important people, connecting on LinkedIn, reaching out, seeing if they can provide, some advice and also find like ways to boost your career was some big things I got from this trip.
Definitely. So I'm thinking like track athlete, you got some internship experience, been exposed, you've been to the career trip. So tell us about the next phase for you. Like, what are you currently doing? Like, and what's the future look for you right now? I know you've been applying to some places.
Yeah.
So we wish you the best on that. But what's next for you?
What's next for me? So I'm looking to become either I've been like at least the roles I've been applying for either a UX UI designer, product designer, or graphic designer for like any company that's willing to take me. Um, I'm hoping to just get my foot in the door. It doesn't really matter like what the position is. I just want to put myself in a good spot to then kind of work my way around and then work my way up. Just hoping I want to become like a lead designer, creative director within like the next 10 years. Hopefully, I'm praying that's granted to me. But that's where I'm at right now. I'm just staying open to anything that's put on the table. Never want to sell myself short. So yeah.
I love it. Now, Gabe, what advice would you give him and any other students that's going to make this transition soon? Like, what's the best career advice you would give him and everybody else?
Tap in, right? So like doing things like getting engaged with people like Nate, people like myself, to find out, okay, what are some opportunities that are here. We haven't me and myself and Nate, we're talking to employers all the time, right? So what are those conversations? What are they looking for? How do I make sure I can position myself to be a competitive candidate for these organizations, right? What skill sets are they looking for? Things like that. What employers are coming on campus? What opportunities do I have to kind of connect with recruiters? Things like that. As you're saying that, I'm thinking like we have a couple fairs coming up. We have visual arts fair that's coming up too. That'd probably be a good idea for you to like. I'm already thinking of that as you're talking. So tap in. You utilize us as resources, but also take advantage of your network. I talked about networking a little bit before, but all it is relationship building, and leveraging your relationships with people in the industry. I'm a huge believer in the 6 degrees of separation. So like even if I don't know somebody, even if I don't have like an open opportunity, I might know somebody
Yeah.
who works in the industry that you're looking to work in, or works for the company that you're looking to work for, right? So 6 degrees of separation is a real thing, and your network is the people around you. You have 2 internships. Your colleagues there. We work with the football team. They have people coming in and all the time and stuff like that. So even having that on your resume is a huge deal for a lot of people. So that's a little bit of advice, and obviously making sure that your resume, your professional documents are up to snuff, because you want to be ready to go. Like if you're networking with someone, one of the things that, one of the things they're gonna ask you, like, hey, yeah, this sounds really great, we're really impressive. Like, hey, make sure you here's my information. Make sure you send me over your resume so I
Mm-hmm.
can kind of pass it along. You don't want to like be waiting 2 3 weeks to finish your resume to be able to send it over. You want to have one
Yeah.
kind of prepped and kind of ready to go. So you can make, tweaks and stuff here and there, but you can kind of send it over. So again, that's another reason why it's important to get tapped in. Especially with, some of the career people, Nate, myself, people at the career center, things like that, because there's a bunch of resources and stuff. I know you're inundated with a lot. You have obviously you're an athlete, you have class, you have, you're part of student groups. There's a lot going on. But especially if you're already kind of thinking, career things, kind of career minded, you want to make sure that you're tapped into those career conversations.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Now we're going to tap into one of my favorite questions, and it's titled "If you knew then, or if you knew then what you know now." Right. So like, as you get older, I mean, you guys mature, things of that nature. Um, Reflect on the highs, the uglies, the goods, the bads, and like just give some advice to your younger self. Um, and that can be, just things that you learn. What advice would you give your younger self?
Hmm. That was a good question.
You can take time. You can take time.
Hmm.
I can take this one first because I have this
All right.
conversation almost every day.
Oh,
One thing that in my work, like I'm blown away by students of today. They're way smarter than I ever was at that time. We talk about being engaged with information, stuff like that. Especially student athletes are now way more engaged than like myself or my teammates. For the most part, ever were. Like back back when I was running. I ran like 10 years ago. So back when I was running, like we were like, hey, like we're going to practice. Oh no, I'm going to this career event. I'm like, why are you doing that? Like what do you have to think about that now? We're an athlete, right? So I would have done a lot of that different, right? I would have spent more time thinking about career stuff. But I also would have spent more time just getting involved on campus. Yes, I was a student athlete, but there was a lot of student groups. I was a part of a couple of student groups, but like I definitely would have explored my interest areas a lot more, got involved a lot more, made some of those connections. Because some of the student groups, I ended up having friends that I still talk to today,
Mhm.
and those are also connections that I still have to this day. Um, and just knowing that like those opportunities were also there. We talked a little about internships. I Without talking to anyone that specialized in the area, I pretty much just told myself that I didn't have the time to do an internship. I never looked really do an internship. I told myself I didn't have the time to go study abroad without actually seeking out the information and what that actually looks like. I could do it all again. I definitely would have looked and sought out the information or found the information, because like it is possible to be a student athlete and to do an internship. It is possible to be a student athlete and travel abroad. It is possible to be a student athlete and do the things you want to do in your time while you're still in school. So I definitely would have been more active in my own growth, both professionally and personally.
that was good. Hmm. I was still thinking, but I think I got it. I'd have to say, honestly, just listening to myself,
Mm,
and like at all times, and doing what I want to do. I talked about that earlier, but
mm,
I feel like that would have saved me so much time, like the amount of stress that I was under, especially getting here. Um, Imposter syndrome, like it was a lot of things. I tell you, like during my sophomore year, like that was probably the worst time. Like there was days I would wake up before class when I being in that computer science major and just tell myself like, what? I really, really, nobody wants to go to class sometimes because it just becomes a very strenuous like experience. But I literally did not want to go to class, and I would go to class. I'm looking at the board. I'm telling myself like, why? Why? Like, really? Why? Why are we doing this? Really? Why are we doing this? So, something I would just tell my younger self is that like, money isn't everything. I felt
mm,
like I was really doing computer science. That's how I kind of realized I was doing computer science because I was told that, oh, you're gonna make X amount of money. You put yourself in a great spot. Like this is everything's gonna be just amazing. But I was in it. I was doing it. I obviously wasn't at like that career level, but I was in the classes. I'm telling myself, like, this is me right now. I know it's gonna get even harder. And it wasn't even just the amount of work that was really stressing me out. It was just like, do I really feel like putting myself through all these things for something that I don't even want to do? I never had a dream of doing. And rather than, than taking some steps back and realizing, being a designer, being that creative person is what makes me happy. So I feel like that's just something that I should have told my younger self, not just doing what you want to do and not trying to please other people and what they see for you. I feel like that's one of the most important things for myself.
No, that's super solid. I appreciate y'all sharing that. I appreciate that.
Probably.
Last section, we're doing rapid fire. So one word that describes the career journey for you would be what? Go ahead.
One word.
One word.
I say it sounds cliche, but like a roller coaster. Yeah, has its highs and lows. Obviously, everybody knows that. There's sometimes you go do the interview and you feel like you're on top of the world. Everything went smooth. About a week or two later, you get that we regret to inform you that we decided to move on with other candidates. It really hits you like, okay, what did I do wrong? Like I really thought like throughout this interviewing process like this fall, there's been like countless times where I felt like I really put myself in a good position. And then you go from being up here and then just down to that low when you get that decline, they reject you. It feels like, all right, well, how are we supposed to get back up from here? So it's something that I'm going through. Obviously, you get used to it at a certain point, but just making sure like you open up as many opportunities for you, so they won't make as big as an impact. But
Roller coaster. Okay, Gabe, what you got?
I mean, he stole mine. I was gonna say like non-linear, uh, but I'll go different. I'll say like self-discovering or self-illuminating, right? So one word is hyphenated. And it's because when you're in your career journey, you learn a lot about yourself. Learn about a lot about, again, we talked about already. What do you like? What don't you like? What kind of culture do you want to kind of immerse yourself in? What kind of work do you want to do? What are your um, popular interview questions, your strengths and weaknesses, right? You really kind of have to take kind of a self-assessment as far as, figuring out a lot about yourself and how you present yourself to the world in a professional sense, something like that. So a lot of stuff you don't necessarily think about on a day to day, you kind of forced to kind of think about when you talk about careers and career paths and things like that.
Next question. Would you rather have a paid experience with an unknown company or an unpaid experience with a notable employer?
Hmm. Uh, yeah. I have to. I don't know. This is hard because I feel like every time you do work, you have to get something from it, and you need to be compensated. I feel like that's the case, but hmm, I do think that money isn't everything. So, as I said before, it can't. But this is hard because it really put. All right. I mean, I'm gonna have to go with unpaid experience with
Yeah.
the notable employee because I feel like if you do well enough in that role, they're already like notable, so you can take that experience. You don't have to work with them the entire time. You can probably put that on the resume, then like market yourself to another company.
Right.
Obviously, you got that experience already, and then get yourself to that next level. So you just stay down till you come up. That's what I think.
Yeah, what you going with?
So I think there's no wrong answer to this question,
All right.
but I also think it's 2023, and I don't believe in not paying for
Yeah,
work.
I,
Like
I,
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 I don't agree with, oh, you get the experience. Like, yeah, you get the experience, but like you're a big company. You have like you have the money,
yeah,
like pay me, you know? So and the thing about like kind of a small or unknown company, you get paid there, but if they're a small unknown company, you're probably going to have a wider breadth of experience, right? So if it's, a lot of these small startups, right?
yeah,
Your title could be one thing, but you can probably work in a lot of different areas. So you're garnering a lot of different experiences. Plus, if you're the uh, the opportunity to probably get onboarded afterwards, after your internship or whatever, it's probably going to be a lot greater because they're familiar with you. They work with you. Again, they're a small company, so they're going to work with people that they trust. So you have probably a better chance with it because the competition is a lot less, right? Reason why they do the unpaid for these large organizations because they have so many um, um, so much interest kind of in them. So I think I would go with the unknown company. Pay me, pay me. It's
Into the bag.
2023. Yeah, inflation's crazy. Economic downturn. Oh, pay me. I need my money on time. Like, nah.
All right, pick one. Work from home, in person, or hybrid.
In person, hands down. I can't if I'm at home, especially like right now. I'm sitting in my apartment right now. My bed is like 3 feet away from me. That's not a good environment for me. I'll end up just chilling all day, like no lie. So I gotta be like in person. So it feels like I gotta be at my best in front of like the people that are important, like my supervisor. If I see him, I'm not gonna like slack him or her, I'm not gonna like slack off. I'll actually like be on my job. But if I'm at home, it's just too easy to just hop in bed. Like that's why I didn't like the like what during COVID, all those online classes. I'd wake up at 8:55 in the morning for a 9 a.m. and like I'm laid. I'm literally laying in bed like clicking on
Camera
Zoom,
off.
what it's called. So like I gotta be in person, be at my best.
Yeah, what you
Uh,
going with?
I'm going with hybrid. So I've lived the iteration of all three. I lived the in person. I lived the solely of remote during COVID, and I work hybrid now. Um,
Mm,
Everything Turp said is dead on. Like, the accountability, that you have being in person, working with, your boss over your shoulder, things like that. I think especially in the work that I do,
mm-hmm.
the kind of in-person interaction is great. Some of the best ideas for events or advice and stuff like that comes from, water cooler conversation, right? Nate, how many times, after a meeting, we just have a side conversation where we're like, oh, like, let's do this, this is a good idea, something. You don't really get that solely through the virtual environment. But also, I don't want to be at work every day. Like you have the commute. It's
Yeah,
tiresome. Like I do like to be able to work from the comfort of my own home. But to like point, like bed's right there. Like it's tempting. So if you work from home, I think it's definitely advantageous to have a dedicated workspace
yeah,
that's not near a bed or your TV with distractions or whatever. That okay, when I go here, you're able to kind of make that separation of work and home life in the comfort of your own home at the same time. So definitely a big fan of the hybrid life. Have a little bit of balance of going to seeing coworkers, seeing people, but my own solitude as well.
All right. When you work, do you listen to music or you work in silence? And if you do listen to music, what you listening to?
Hmm. Uh, most of the time I am listening to music.
Okay.
Gotta varies by the day. I'll go like top three artists I listen to at work. Uh, I'll go with Jay-Z for
Mm,
sure, for sure. Kendrick Lamar, and if I'm just trying to chill a little bit, throwing some like Brent Fires. That's gonna be it right
Mm,
there.
fire.
like it. I like it.
Uh,
I do a little bit of. I definitely don't. I can't work in silence.
Okay.
yeah.
I'm either listening to music or I'm listening to some podcasts.
Mhm.
Um, just something that kind of have in the background. Music wise, it just depends on the day. I can listen to some rap, some R&B. I can listen to some rock. Um, I can listen to some jazz. It just really depends on what mood I'm in. Also, like if there's people in the offices around me, or if I'm at home. If I'm at home, I'm cranking it up a little bit louder. If I'm at the office, I play something a little bit more mellow, so not to scare my coworkers away.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it really depends on the day. But I'm definitely listening to something throughout the day.
All right. Next one gonna be long day, back to back meetings all day. You gonna drink coffee or tea?
Coffee, coffee, Starbucks coffee at that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Tea, tea.
Cheer. Okay. Tea's bad. Not bad. I like tea. All right. If you're not pursuing the current career that you're pursuing now, what would you be pursuing?
Mm. Uh, hmm. I'd say I'd probably be doing something. I know I wouldn't be doing computer science, to tell you that much. Uh, hmm. Maybe something in like marketing. It kind of does tie into graphic design a little bit because, like, you use graphics in marketing. But I feel like that's probably another avenue that I go down. I like, being able like to understand other people's like mindsets when it comes to like what people would think. So I feel like if I went down that road, it would be pretty good, pretty good experience for sure.
Quick plug: the marketing department at UCC is looking for an intern, looking for a
Okay.
videographer if you got the time available.
Let me write that.
Yeah, we can connect after if you're interested. Yeah. But I would definitely probably be looking to become a pilot.
Interesting.
I love flying,
That's
love flying
crazy.
planes. Um, I'd be up in the sky somewhere. I'm in the clouds.
Hmm. All right.
Mhm.
We're going to a networking event and it's business professional. What's your fit or what's the color of your suit?
Hmm.
It's the last question.
All right. Me, I've never been a big suit guy, like at all. If I gotta put something on though,
Gotta
being
put
like a professional center, all right, definitely go with like a button up, like under. I'd probably go to something like, neutral, nothing too like flashy. So maybe like a gray sweater over the top, maybe slide a little tie under there, right there.
Okay.
Uh, black pants and some Alexander McQueen's solid fit right there. Yeah.
Gabe, this is the guy who said a humble car was the Tesla.
Got it. No, it all makes sense now. It all makes sense now.
It makes sense. Hey, what you going with? Let me see the fit. Let me
uh,
see the fit.
I'm going with like a dark blue suit,
Okay.
with a brown belt, brown shoes, brown tie combo. Got to have the pocket square.
I guess right.
For just the little bit of flash in there. White shirt, combo. Slim
Okay.
fit. Slim fit though.
Clean. I like it. Well, that wraps up this episode. Like I said, I definitely appreciate y'all coming out, speaking to our viewers, our listeners. But before I let you all go, where can our listener viewers kind of contact you if they have any questions? So I'll let y'all plug yourself, social media, LinkedIn. Where can they find you?
I'm on LinkedIn. Brandon Turpin, you just type that in. And also hit me on Instagram. That's b.turp. And Twitter is bturp. So everything involves my name. So you can just go ahead. I'm open to any questions, any opportunities. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can find me on LinkedIn, Gabe Pickett. Or you can just shoot me an email, gpickett@umd.edu. Come by the Career Center or come by the Seller Center. I'm one of two places. Um, but if you also have any questions, you can always hit Nate. He can always find me. So
Definitely. Well, just to plug our upcoming events, we have the Career Readiness Week coming February 14th and 15th. We'll be talking about mental health in the workplace. Gabe will be in attendance. And then we have Black Voices in Career Readiness. That's going to be on Tuesday, February 21st. So that's going to be a very good, candid, real conversation. That's going to be important. We have Women in the Workforce coming up on March 27th, a little further out, but another great real conversation we'll be having. And then, Gabe, you got any upcoming events on your behalf from UCC or BSOS you want to promote?
absolutely. The Spring University Career and Internship Fair, February 15th through 17th will be the in-person days. They'll be taking place at Stamp. Wednesday the 15th is the all majors day. The 16th, Thursday is all majors plus STEM, and then the 17th is all STEM and engineering. The virtual day is February 24th, which is the following Friday. And that'll be virtual, so you can log in right on your computer. Make sure you check it out on the UCC website. Do your homework, see what employers are coming, things like that. Right now, we have about 200 employers that are registered to be attending over the 3 days, with more to come over the next couple of weeks. Definitely check that out.
Thank you. Well, on behalf of Maryland May, we just want to thank you. I think your perspective was great and unique, and I think it added a lot of value to this conversation. So thank you again. And I hope you have a good rest of your week. All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
All right. See y'all next time.
Right.
All right. And stop.